Hello, and welcome to the fourth concert on the Toledo Symphony's Pro Medica Masterworks series, Songs of the Earth. My name's Merwin. I'm the principal second violin and artistic administrator, and we're so happy to welcome you to the Peristyle and virtually to hear this amazing concert featuring one of Gustav Mahler's most amazing pieces, the song cycle Songs of the Earth, conducted by our music director, Alain Trudel. Alain will be sharing his insights about the Mahler in just a few minutes. But I wanted to share some thoughts about the first piece on the program, Chen Yi's Shuo. Chen Yi is a Chinese-born violinist and composer who has been living in the United States since 1986. This particular piece is a wonderful foil to the Mahler because, like the Mahler, they both have inspirations in Chinese folk song and Chinese poetry. Whereas the Mahler talks very much about endings, Shuo is very much about beginnings. The word actually refers to the first day of the month in the lunar calendar, but it's also really a sense of beginning in kind of a more metaphorical sense. And you'll hear that very much in this piece. The piece has a vibrancy and a youthfulness to it that makes it a really a perfect fit with the Mahler song cycle. One thing to really listen for in this piece is Dr. Chen's ability to translate kind of the intricacies of Chinese speech into a stringed instrument. Now, there's this kind of truism about the Chinese language. You can take a single syllable, what a word like ma in English would have an M and an A sound, but that MA sound could have multiple meanings in Chinese based on whether the word is pronounced going upward, ma, downward, ma, with kind of a checkmark intonation, ma, and many, many more. And those meanings are drastically different. So depending on how you're shaping that syllable, it can be your mother, it can be a horse, it can be a question mark, it could be all of those things. So exactly how the pitches move from one pitch to another is critically important. And Dr. Chen is able to notate these little slides and these pitch bends very deliberately in her string writing to create meaning and really make it sound truly Chinese. We hope you enjoy this performance of Dr. Chen's Shuo. I've been privileged to perform many of her works, both as a solo violinist and as a member of the orchestra. And even though this piece is new to me, new to us, certainly, and most likely new to you as well, we're sure you'll enjoy it. It's a wonderful piece that really speaks to an audience on a first hearing.
As an introduction to the previous piece that you've heard, Merwin was talking about beginnings. With Mahler, we start talking about endings. That's very important. It's kind of something that he's very close to since he was a very young child. He's close to people dying. He's close to his own mortality. He's very in tune with that, and very in tune that mortals are nothing compared to the earth and that kind of thing. So in Das Lied von der Erde, which is Songs of the Earth, he talks about that a lot. Now, people ask, is it a song cycle? Is it a symphony? By then, Mahler has written 8 symphonies. And Mahler is, it's not that he was so superstitious, but that year, I don't give years so much in talks usually, but now I will. And in 1907, he was in Vienna. It was his last year. And it was his last year because he didn't know it was his last year, because he was a very tough conductor. And they were kind of having all kinds of meetings to replace him. And he goes to see the doctor, and he has a condition with his heart that will actually make him very, very feeble at some point, and is very danger of dying. And also, one of his daughters dies that year. So he's hit 3 times by destiny, that him and his family that year. And that also, it's not going very well at home with Alma, but that's something else. Mahler was a special person to be with, and Alma was actually a composer in her own right when she met him. In the 5th symphony, which we played here before, he has this beautiful adagietto where he he charmed her, and then they married, and then he took all the place. And as it happens sometimes in couples, one of the two takes all the place, the other one feels resentful a little bit, so that's what happened. And so on top of being sick, on top of his daughter dying, and his job there, and so nothing was going well for him. All of a sudden, 1907, he's the #1 musician in the world, and everything crumbles that year. So but he's still writing music, which is a good thing. And he wrote his 8th symphony. He said, "Oh, what else is going to happen to me?" And he said, "Well, most composers died writing their 9th, or they never got past the 9th. So I'm going to cheat death. I'm going to write a symphony of song. I'm not going to call it symphony. Actually, it was called Das Lied von der Erde, which is Songs of the Earth, but it was a symphony for alto, contralto, tenor, and orchestra. So it is called a symphony at some point, and it's a huge work. And like Mahler says, it has to feel like it's the universe in one piece. And it's every symphony is that. And if you take the corpus of his work, it's also a universe. And I know some of our people find sometimes Mahler a little long and a little difficult to understand, but the key to that is to let go. Accept, let go, and accept the experience. You might not understand everything, but it will touch you. Because Mahler is one of the most human composers, even though it looks complicated sometimes, but it's not. So we'll talk about the movements in this Das Lied von der Erde, which is actually, he wrote that, and then he said, well, I cheated death, I'm going to write a 9th symphony. He writes his 9th symphony, he starts his 10th, and then he dies. So it's like, there's the specter of the ghost of Beethoven after his 9th symphony seems to be still around. But let's not get into that. So Das Lied von der Erde is actually, he wanted to call it a symphony of sorrows of the earth. It's quite sad, because we're talking, like I said, we're talking about saying goodbye. But we're also talking about when somebody tells you that, you have a fatal illness, he probably thinks this guy has like 2-3 years to live. You start to see your life in retrospect. You start to kind of appreciate different things. You start to have a gratitude. And so sometimes where you had hate, you find gratitude. Sometimes when you had envy, you find beauty. So his world turned around. It's completely different. And you'll hear in this piece, it's not so aggressive as some of his other symphonies. I say aggressive. I mean, because you hear a lot of his trauma from his youth. The band's playing in the street while it was not going so well at home when he was young, and he hears that, and he puts it in the symphony. It's a little different in there. It's really a very, very deep piece. It's his masterwork. I have to say, all Mahlerians agree that it's Mahler's masterwork, so I'm very happy that we play it for you. So the first song, the drinking song of the sorrow of the earth. So you find a way to put it somewhere in there. Like all the poems he's using for this, they're Chinese poems that are, from the 8th and 9th century. So he's taking those, he's putting them in 1907, 1908 when he wrote this music, and he wrote this and the 9th Symphony almost together. And it touches the side that it's the Songs of the Earth. It talks about nature, but it talks about our nature also as human beings. So this song is about this guy who's having a party with other people, and he says, okay, we're gonna have a drink. So everybody says, Yaval, your cups, silver cups or golden cup. And they say, okay, we're gonna, but before, I need to tell you a story. Oh, okay, yeah, and then the story is like, life is so horrible. It's like, it's very fin de siècle, Vienna, Paris, fin de siècle, end of the 19th century, beginning of 20th century, the world is ending in a way. So it's very much like that. And it always ends like, dark is life, dark is death. Let's have a drink. It's like, and then, oh, wait a second, I have another story. We'll tell you the other story and fine. So that's this song. So it sounds like it's sung by tenor, and you can see that Mahler was probably not a fan of tenors. It's very unflattering the way he writes for tenors. It's very difficult to sing. It's very high, and it just starts there, and it stays there. So but it also depicts somebody who's like, hey, a little bit like that, a little tipsy, right? So this is the first movement. It's very symphonic. This movement, it's the most symphonic of all the movements in it, and it has, so you're like not a re-exposition. It doesn't go that deep, but it has a recap, and you can find something you might know in this, So this song is about that. Then we go right away into the next song, which for contralto. So each song, one is the tenor, one is the contralto or alto, one is the tenor, alto, tenor, alto. So he wrote originally for tenor or contralto or baritone, but the best is really to have a man and a woman. So when you hear the sound, they're different, and the emotion is different also. The next song is very timely right now. It's the lonely one, or the person who's lonely in autumn. It's very close to another, I think maybe he was thinking of his daughter in there, because he was writing, before his daughter passed away, a piece called Kindertotenlieder, the song of the dead children. And his wife had told him, don't write songs about children dying. Horrible things can happen. And his daughter died. I mean, it's like, we can't even imagine this happening. So anyway, this song goes back into that kind of orchestration, which means it's very it's very pure. There's not many instruments, very chamber music. After the first one that's really loud, this drunken guy come in, they're loud. And the second one is really almost, it sounds like when in the beginning, just the violins play, that's like, and then you have the oboe playing, and you hear that in every movement. You hear that kind of, it's called leitmotif, it's a little thematic thing. It comes back everywhere, but you don't need to know about it, but it's if you know, good. So the lonely one in autumn. So this sings about loneliness, and I think it brings us back to that. I brought him back to that. That's my opinion on it. Then we go into, there's 6 movements in this piece, but the next 3 are kind of together. They're lighter movements, because the first one is very loud, the second one is so deep. It's almost like beautiful in a devastating way. It's like, and now we need something to really relax a little bit. So he has a movement that's about youth, a movement that's about beauty, and another drunken one who comes, but in the spring this time, and say, oh, look at all the excuse me, and it's not written in 2021, right? So, oh, look at all the beautiful girls, and they try. So it's kind of it's like a triptych, those movements, they go together. They're a lot of fun, they're very short. And that's one thing about this symphony, or this symphony of songs, is that like first one is 8 minutes, then the next one is also like maybe 12 minutes, then there's 4 minutes, then 4 minutes, then 6 minutes, and then half an hour. And I'll explain when we get to the last one. It's one of the most special pieces of music ever written. But for the moment, we're talking about those 3 movements before that farewell moment that I'll talk about a little later. Those 3 movements, what they have in common is that they use the pentatonic scale, which is a penta 5, and pentatonic, they have 5 notes. So da 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 di da 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 di da da 1 2 3 4 5. So it's very Asian. So Chinese poem, he's trying to do that, but at the same time, it's used a lot of different places. It's used a lot in our continent, in America and Canada. Native Indians, they have a lot of songs like that. You hear in the New World Symphony, there's a lot of pentatonic things, but it's used a lot in Chinese music. So he thought it would be interesting. Like in the first movement, mi la mi re mi la mi la sol mi sol la sol mi. It's always the pentatonic scale. So you hear a lot of those in those 3 movements. I won't go into detail those movements, because basically they set us up for that last movement. So you have the first movement, second, those 3 movements. Oh, okay, it's okay. It's got to be fun after all. Then the last one, the farewell. There's always this thing with Mahler. Is he ready to go? Is he saying goodbye? Is he saying, I'm not ready to go? Is he saying, I am at peace with it? We never know. In the 9th Symphony, it's quite clear that he's not, but he's doing a little bit of a bilan. So he's saying, okay, this is about this part of my life, this about this part of my life, this part, and I'm trying to leave, but I love life so much. I would like to be here, but I have to go. Yeah? And this one, he took 2 Chinese poets, and he did this one movement with their 2 poems. And it finishes with, goodbye, I'll farewell, and it moves, and it comes back like 9 times at the end. It's like leaving but never leaving. It's one of the most beautiful work of art you will ever hear or see even. It has moments where everybody plays it super expressive. It has moments where it's just a double bass and a tam-tam, the big gong, that are playing a note while our contralto is singing. This is one of the most human experience you can have in music. For me, it's one of the most human experience. Each time I conduct it, I have the chance to have wonderful soloists, because our soloist, Susan Platz, and this woman, she's a top world-class Mahler interpreter. So, and I've done it with her before, and you're in for something with her. So this farewell is something that might actually change some of your lives, and I know it changed mine. So anyway, I hope you enjoy Songs of the Earth by Gustav Mahler.